Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. My name is Doug Brunke. I am the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. This is one of my favorite programs because we travel around Africa in a conversation with experts who know the markets, who can give us an update on what's hot, what's not, and anything that we need to know about growing business in Africa. We've got a very distinguished group of folks, both on the speaker panel and also in the audience. So we welcome everyone's participation. We are going to be finishing up about 5 minutes before the top of the hour because we're back to back with a book author program. So if you're interested in that, I'll bet we'll put that link in the chat area so you can attend that as well. Where do we start? Boy, there's so many great speakers today. So I'm not, it's a wealth of riches, but I think given that he just landed back in Africa, although now I don't see him, there he is, Comey Clue. So Comey Clue is one of our favorite members. He was a member early on in the life of Global Chamber, and we really appreciate your support and collaboration. I have a particular connection with Comey because he spent a decent amount of time in Delaware, where I worked for a number of years with the DuPont company. So we share quite a bit of connection there. He, however, is an expert on Ghana and Africa and investing in Africa, and that's really where his life drive and passion and expertise is. And Comey, I appreciate your message. You landed back in Africa. Where are you? What would you like to share with us today? And we look forward to hearing more.
Thank you for that nice introduction. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. I see something behind you there. What's behind you before you get started?
Oh, no, it's yes, a background. Yes, an online background. That's all.
Oh, okay. So it's not Africa and it's not Delaware.
No, it's not Delaware.
Okay, very good. Where are you right now? And what
I'm currently in Ghana.
Okay.
And I'll be here for maybe another week before I head to Côte d'Ivoire and start traveling across this lovely continent of ours.
Wonderful. That sounds good. What's hot?
Everything is hot in Africa. No, the weather is hot, but albeit this is the rainy season, so it is a little cooler than when I left in April. But as far as business is concerned, the continent is hot. And I'm going to give you a few reasons why somebody should consider investing in Africa. First of all, the first reason is there's a high return on investment. And I have data to support that from the UN, from the World Bank. So I cannot go into the detail in that with regard to the return. And we have all the major companies falling over each other. You talk especially about tech companies, Google, Facebook, Facebook is Meta, and everybody is falling over themselves to just create a presence here in Africa. More and more, we have more flexible government policies, which makes doing business in Africa more appealing and easier for any foreign investor. Now, this might sound a little bit oxymoron, but poor infrastructure in Africa also present great investment opportunity. Why? It's because everything needs to be built. It is good. It's a good opportunity for those who are in infrastructure in big investment arena. Now, our population is growing fast, and the middle class in Africa is the fastest growing anywhere in the world. So who says middle class growing population is talking about consumer demand for consumer goods. Anything that you produce and sell, the people can buy. Let me stop there just to open the parentheses. As far as we are living a food crisis here in Africa. Anybody who is visionary will put their money on food and agriculture. That's all I want to say there. Now, there are a lot of untapped opportunities in Africa, and I'm going to talk briefly about energy. Africa has proven 800 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. Who is suffering from natural gas today is Europe, because they have a problem with Russia. Algeria, Nigeria, Senegal are the countries that are taking advantage of their natural gas. We have natural gas here in Ghana, but we do not have the means to exploit or export it. So what are we doing? We're flaring the natural gas. We're burning it. It does not make sense. There are opportunities in Africa that we are living on the ground. Now, why are we talking about this opportunity, and especially now to the Global Tribe audience? It's because a few weeks ago, I was in a meeting at the US Trade Office, where I was invited to attend the meeting of a reverse trade mission by a country called Cote d'Ivoire or Ivory Coast. They came to DC to present the investment opportunity that their country offers. They are great. And what is unique about this is like the US Trade Agency and Millennium Challenge Corporation, MCC, are the one that are powering this trade mission. And we met with all of them. And they said something that shook me, is the Millennium Corporation, Millennium Challenge Corporation, which is a US corporation, said that they do not have enough US-based companies who are interested or who apply to work with them to have access to their facilities so that they can carry out their development agenda in Africa and across the world. I mean, the MCC does not operate only in Africa. I want to make that parenthesis. So this offers a lot of opportunity for we, the Global Chamber members, and for anybody else who is based in the US to partner with local companies in Africa so that they can just take advantage of the funds that the MCC is putting on the table to carry out their mission. Now, this is what Ruby and I will do the most. We connect companies. Anybody interested in any area of development in Africa, starting from food, agriculture, and infrastructure, power, energy, we can connect you to the right people to do business. And Ivory Coast came, I wish I could share my screen with you. Ivory Coast came and they were showing so much potential, and the MCC just shared with us. Do I have the chance to share one slide?
Yeah, you can share one slide. And by the way, your camera is pointed up, so we only see just the top of your head. There you go.
Oh, really? Okay, is it better?
Yeah, right there is perfect. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go ahead and share a slide if you'd like.
Just one slide. Yeah, I know time is of the essence, so I will share one slide.
This was the Millennium Challenge, and I know a Global Chamber Executive Director Mijong Hibbets, who I think you met while you were in Washington, is
Yes.
working on that with us as well.
Yes.
Really interesting program.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Here are all the projects that MCC is pioneering around the world. And they show this at the Côte d'Ivoire reverse trade meeting. So this is very important and they have so many opportunities. And the next one is the list of all the projects and all the areas where the MCC operates. So I can send this to Caesar to send to everybody. But in closing, what I would like to say is that there is a lot of opportunity for Africa and a lot of people opportunity in Africa, and especially because of the network that the Global Chamber members have created, we have the resources on the ground to support you. Now, one last thing is, this event was co-sponsored by the Global Chamber. So when you go to these people already by telling them that you're from the Global Chamber and so forth, they know you, the brand is speaking on your behalf already. So in closing, there is a lot of opportunities. Africa is open for business. If you need help, there are a lot of capable experts on the line, Ruby, Nihi, myself, who can hold your hands and help you be successful in Africa. Thank you. And I will be willing and available to take questions. Thank you for the opportunity.
I can't think of anyone I'd rather hold hands with than Comey and Ruby together, and walking into some of these opportunities. So thank you for that. I'm wondering what I'd like to kind of set up in terms of your expectation for the rest of our 30 to 40 minutes that remain is, would love to hear from any of you, and please feel free to raise your hand, in the chat area. Also, feel free to put your information, your contact information in the chat area. We do have some speakers, including Comey and Ruby and Derek. I'd love to have Mel Sanderson say a few words. Nihi, I see in the audience, would love to have you say a few words. And then anybody else, feel free to raise your hand and we'll get to you as well for questions and for other comments that you'd like to make. I thought you did a really good job there, Comey, of framing up not just the energy area, which historically has been there, but now has become really important because of the European situation. You mentioned fintech and technology. I don't think you mentioned mining, but I know we've got some experts on the line on mining. You mentioned ag, food products, and you focus primarily on Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, and some really great opportunities there. So thank you for sharing those. As long as you're in Ghana and Ruby's in Ghana, I'm wondering if maybe we go, Ruby, to you next. And what would you like to add to the conversation relative to opportunities that people should know about in Ghana and beyond?
Thank you, Doug. Hello, everyone. I think that Comey has covered the areas very nicely. He's actually touched on most of the areas that I'd wanted to talk about. I just want to re-emphasize the population that we have in Africa. We do have about 1.2 billion people, but it has been projected to reach 1.7 billion by 2030. And so you can see how huge the African continent is and the opportunities that it presents. For me today, because there are other speakers, I just want to narrow it down to the agri sector, because I believe that we all eat. When we wake up each day, we eat. The world is experiencing food crisis in many parts. And my question then is, why are we not looking into Africa for the solutions? Because we do have the land, we have the people, we have the natural resources and everything it takes for the world to look at Africa to kind of solve the food crisis and for us to be food security issues as well. So that is the question I want to throw out today to the audience. What can we do to help? Because Africa is industrializing. We're looking for manufacturing. We want people to come and set up manufacturing plants here, especially fertilizer, for instance. There are no fertilizers for the farmers to use. Why are we not getting people to set up manufacturing plants? I see in the audience one of my chamber members, Stephen, who is in the agri sector. I'm sure he will bail me out that these are some of the things that we need support, and we need, people to look at those opportunities. We do have opportunities in the health sector as well. COVID comes to teach us that we need to look at building our health systems. And so then again, there's opportunity for manufacturing of pharmaceutical products, etc. Then again, I see Dr. Nkansa, one of our members in the audience. I believe if he gets the chance, he will also highlight some of the key areas that we need people to come and invest in. And so for me today, my passion really is agri focused. There's a whole lot of opportunity in that space. We do have a lot of produce that needs to be processed. And so anyone in that space, if you are interested, please feel free to reach out to me or any other sectors. I will put my details in the chat box and invite people to reach out to me for support. Thank you, Doug. I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Ruby. Really appreciate it. I see some really awesome people in the audience. Thank you all for joining us today. We're going to continue to go around the room, and Christopher Herring, I see you, so I've noted for you to speak as well. From West Africa, let's go over to East Africa, and Derek Bunga, Global Chamber Executive Director for Kenya. Derek, thank you for joining us today. As always, looking great. Some great opportunities in Kenya as well. Are you open to sharing right now?
Yep, I am. Thank you, Doug. And hello to everybody. I have a brief presentation which I'd like to share. So if I can get the rights to share that, I'll just pop this in. And I'll try to make it as brief as possible, seeing how... let's see if I can get this... Okay, I hope everybody can see that.
Hey, it looks great. You got some purple in there too. That looks great.
I've got some purple. Yeah, so I think the first thing I wanted to talk about was how we have to face the reality of the situation. Clearly, there's a lot of market opportunities, hot market opportunities, as this session is called. But the reality of the situation, which I needed to get out of the way, is that Africa, or at least Kenya, because I'm focusing on Kenya for this particular conversation, there are a couple of, shall we say, minor challenges. We have obviously commodity price shocks on the back of what's happening globally around the world, places like Ukraine. The dollar strengthening is definitely hurting us in terms of some of the exports that we bring into the country, fuel, things like that. We have an election that's coming around the corner next month. And again, obviously, food security because of a lack of rains in certain parts of the country, and obviously what's also going on in parts of the world like Ukraine. But having said that, I still think that there are tremendous opportunities, and I want to talk actually about our GDP growth, which is I'll say steady at 4.5%. So in light of all of those things, so in light of everything that I've mentioned, the prognosis for our GDP growth, I think, looks good. Also, the government has been spending a lot on infrastructure and tourism and agriculture and the education sector, which I'll talk about later. So that's good news. In fact, those three areas, agriculture, Ruby mentioned agriculture in Ghana, the services industry, and the tourism industry, I think these are opportunities for anybody who would be interested in doing business, certainly in this part of the world, in Kenya. Let me just zero in a little bit more on some of these areas. So their government spent quite a bit of its budget, primarily on education. And so that's a sector where they have prioritized. And for people who are looking for opportunities in the education sector, whether it's coming up with innovative programs, looking for lifelong learning, this is certainly an area of tremendous opportunity, as well as infrastructure, ICT, and energy. As I mentioned before, major infrastructure projects have been taking place and continue to take place in Kenya. And again, this is an opportunity for people who are looking for perhaps ways to do business with companies here. And also they're part of the funds that were allocated according to the most recent budget was to public administration and international relations. That's really to strengthen the administration of public services at all levels of government to enhance effective and efficient implementation of all these programs. I want to talk a little bit about this launch of the US-Kenya Strategic Trade and Investment Partnership, particularly for those of you in this meeting who are either from America or at least American-based companies. This was done a few months ago this year, and just to highlight a few areas, agriculture, the US government and the Kenya government are really looking to enhance transparency, to create an enabling environment for innovative agricultural technologies. And I think the key word there is innovative agricultural technologies. Digital technology, of course, in terms of securing our digital infrastructure, helping with companies and startups that are in this digital space. I think Kenya, and particularly Nairobi, is well known for that. So that's an area of opportunity. Small and medium enterprises, again, there was a special emphasis on this, how to help them grow, how to give them best practice, to support them, peer-to-peer mentoring, providing roundtables, and those sorts of opportunities. There was also special mention for women, youth, and other people, say, people who work in quote-unquote marginalized areas. And emphasis is made on empowering them, helping them to participate, bring them in to be part of the economy, to help them promote equitable and inclusive development. And then the other two were just on standards and international trade. Again, just to foster this environment for international trade and to make it easy for organizations and companies on both sides of the border. This is something that also caught my eye, where the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, there's been a special emphasis on this, opening up Kenya to particularly African companies, African investors, people within the African continent. And this is a special area that I think needs to be noted and would be of interest to anybody who is within Africa and looking to do business in Kenya, as well as obviously Kenyan companies who have an eye on cross-border trade within the African continent. So those are just some of the areas I wanted to sort of highlight. I was going to make this presentation brief. I think just I wanted to wrap up with mentioning that Nairobi was listed in Time magazine's World's Greatest Places for cultural reasons, for the economic potential, I think for a lot of the infrastructure and clearly this enabling environment and tourism and what have you. So I think that's kudos. I think there are only 2 African countries that were mentioned. So that is Nairobi for you. And I thought I would share with you just a little bit of how Nairobi looks like today, certainly in terms of development. So I have a brief video. I hope you can all see this. Hang on, let me get this to play. Okay, so hopefully that has whetted your appetite for opportunities, hot market opportunities, as they say, here in Africa. Thank you so much for giving me this platform. I'll now hand this over back to Doug. Thank you.
Thank you. Definitely, we saw a lot of infrastructure there for sure. A lot of roads being built, and so that's really exciting, and a lot of activity there. I'm wondering, we've got about 25 minutes left, and hopefully we can get to everybody who would like to say something. Please feel free to raise your hand. Welcome, Yvonne. I'm glad to see you as well. Mel Sanderson is zooming in from the great state of Wyoming. She is an expert on Africa, particularly DRC. She's got a long diplomatic career all over the world, but her expertise is particularly exciting for Africa. Mel, you're hearing some things here today that you've probably heard before. You have your own unique perspectives on where the opportunities lie. What would you like to share today?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. Am I live?
You are live and in person.
Sometimes
right there.
I can't tell. Yeah, just really quickly, because we have lots of folks who also want to contribute. I know you probably want mining mentioned, and as Derek just said, of course, the commodity shock has been felt across Africa, but it doesn't mean that there aren't great opportunities in the sector, because the demand for rare earth elements, the demand for copper, and even gold, particularly as it's used in industrial capacities, is remaining very strong even in a down economy. And statistics show that globally demand exceeds existing supply by an order of more than 75% right now. And that demand supply gap is expected to grow to around 200% if new mines don't rapidly come online. And given the realities of permitting in the United States, and for that matter, in many other parts of the world, Africa as a continent is very mining friendly. And so there are some, I think, outstanding opportunities. There's big reserves available, obviously in the DRC, but particularly all along the Rift Valley, there's big reserves available. There's also a opportunity that's not much spoken of in alternative energy, thermal energy, also a Rift Valley phenomenon, and could power not just Africa, but could be exported to the European continent as well. So I definitely want to touch on those. In the domain of other areas such as agriculture and tourism, I think that there's going to be great demand for water management specialists, because as we've already seen in South Africa, tourism industry suffers gravely when every part of the city has to shut down because there's no water. And obviously tourists don't want to go to places where the hotels don't have reliable water. It underpins everything. It underpins the coming food crisis. And I think that for people with knowledge and technology in water management, Africa would be a wonderful place to go, because the entry, again, market entry is a lot quicker, a lot easier. Demand is there, potential is there, and Africa could be the real leader in transforming production of agriculture to be much more water friendly. One question to keep in mind in that regard is Africa traditionally has resisted GMO, genetically modified organisms, and I personally applaud that. But when it comes to water, I think that it might be wise for everyone everywhere around the globe to be flexible in terms of genetically modified organisms that are capable of using a lot less water to reach the same level of productivity. So I'm going to shut up right there. If anybody has any questions, I'll put my information in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. Always very insightful. Really appreciate that. We've got about 20 minutes left, and so feel free to raise your hand. I'm just going to continue to go around the room unless you raise your hand, and be happy to call on you and to learn more. Let's go now to Nigeria, and Nihi, are you available to speak? Nihi Sanusi is not just an attorney with a global network and a network around Africa, but he's a trusted resource for Global Chamber in Nigeria and works with our executive director, Debbie Adesola. Nihi, are you available to say a couple words about opportunities that you see in Nigeria and beyond?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Ruby, Komi, Derek, I believe Mel, I've spoken a lot about the opportunities on the micro level. I just want to talk about something that's happening on a higher level, and that has to do with the G7 industrial countries' interest in Africa in the recent few weeks. I think most of us should be aware that the G7, the US, of course, and its partners have launched a global infrastructure program for Africa dedicated primarily to Africa. And this is about $600 billion worth of investment. If it comes through, and hopefully it will, it portends a lot of opportunities for Africa, especially in view of the Continental Free Trade Agreement as well. And then added to this is the fact that in Nigeria, we are having the US build a $537 million consulate in Lagos. And that says a lot, that if the US is going to be so invested in Nigeria and effectively the rest of Africa, there's a lot about to happen. And so let's keep our eyes on those moves as we prepare for the future. We are doing that in our own little ways. I'd suggest that if you are able to try and create alliances across the continent in your specific areas. One area that Ruby and I discussed has to do with payment systems. We still have a challenge across the continent, paying from one part of the country, making payments from one part of the continent to another. As Ghana and Nigeria, as close as they are, it's very difficult to make transfer payments without paying a ton on fees to banks. So I think we have quite a number of areas we can look at. This is just one of them. I'm also networking in my capacity as a lawyer with some of my colleagues across the continent. I have one or two lawyers in East Africa, particularly Nairobi. We're trying to create an African alliance for lawyers. And this is going to be very, very relevant as time goes on, as things begin to open up with all the macro level investments that I've mentioned. So other professionals will be needed as time goes on across board, so that you act as a one-stop shop for your kind of profession. I think that's what I have to say for now. I think most of what I would have said is already well covered. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nihi. Great additions. Really appreciate that. Let's now go to Christopher Herring. Christopher kicked off an initiative at Global Chamber, starting with the Juneteenth celebration, the recognition of freeing of slaves in the United States, that when he and his team were thinking about other ways to add to that and make it more than just a celebration, to actually do something beyond that, connecting, for instance, the African diaspora around the world and providing opportunities for improving and increasing business. That was kicked off recently. And so, Christopher, thank you for doing that. And are there any updates relative to that or anything else that you would like to share?
Well, good morning. I just wanted to piggyback on what Ruby had talked about, and that is the need to be able to develop and cultivate different relationships and different opportunities in Africa. I know after doing a Globinar earlier with the transition between the Trump and the Biden administration, and I put the link in the chat. I'd like for everyone to look at it. We talked about the U.S. relationships with countries around the world. And we saw that during the Trump administration, if you remember, he had labeled African nations as being a bad word, whole, place. And that disturbed me. And it disturbed me deeply because when I'm looking at the policies of the U.S. that reflect the comment that the president made then, that the areas where he was moving was to remove certain African nations out of preferred nation status with the U.S. And so if you know, and we're talking about discrimination, racism, and where that all generates, but if America has a policy that aligns itself with immigration status and preferred nation status, and we are the superpower nation. It seems as though to support what Ruby is saying, that there needs to be across all nations of Africa a diplomatic push to increase the number of African nations that have preferred nation status with the U.S. There are in the presentation, you will see that I put in the chat, Attorney Myers talks about the benefits of preferred nation status, which also includes entrepreneurial incentives and business relationships that many countries that enjoy with the U.S. because of the E1 and E2 treaties they have in place. So I know after seeing how government and commerce works hand in hand, we have to have an agenda at each area of Global Chamber in the metro areas to ensure that your diplomatic leadership can pitch to the U.S. under this president for E1s and E2 treaties to be established for your nations, because that should then, in my opinion, eradicate the first level of discrimination, which is access. If African nations don't have access to the U.S. markets freely, then the pyramid of the haves and have-nots will always continue to perpetuate opportunities for those who have the access to the powerful market of the U.S., but never recognize the opportunities and power that are in place in other nations, which we have always labeled as third world countries. I'm familiar after I read President Nixon's book, 1999. And I read that book and it disturbed me when I was a college student, how he had an isolation approach to Africa because he didn't see the value. America perpetuates that through our treaty status. And if we don't recognize that, then what Ruby has said will never come to fruition. We have to address the superpower where the power is. And that is with access to American markets that allows us to have a freer trade, that allows us to be able to mobilize and to provide the very best businesses to really open up those business opportunities that can be on the ground there. So it's a twofold effort. And with Global Chamber, we just simply have to keep doing what we're doing. Continue to talk about the opportunities like we have today that show the hot opportunities and where they are, and let each region stand on its feet to be able to articulate that and not fall into the trap of what the world has said that you can't do. It's really the ability to be able to penetrate the hearts, the minds, and to develop a campaign that enables us to see more African nations have preferred status. I will also include and say that the Juneteenth initiative was powerful, but one of the things that we want to do is we want to create real meaning behind Juneteenth. The holiday has been a celebration day and has no teeth to it. And that was also, I think, by design in terms of what holiday formation was. And so to develop the teeth, we decided to commit to make sure that we're talking about the global diaspora and enable Africa, America, and those places in the Caribbean that had many slaves that were dropped off, and that those economies need to work together. And we also agreed in our Juneteenth conversation that it's not a U.S. to Africa and a looking down, but it's a working together to create a mutual exchange where they can exist. All right, thank you so much, Doug.
No, appreciate that. Mel Sanderson's very familiar with U.S. policy and how that works. Mel, I don't know if you wanted to add anything, but if nothing else, I definitely want to make sure that you and Christopher are connected on the Juneteenth initiative, that you're aware of it, and hopefully you can contribute to that.
Yeah, I mean, Christopher's comments about basically favored nation trading status are dead on point. I actually dropped a comment in the chat box. That's something that the AU needs to take on very forthrightly, because it really is a negotiation, not so much in Christopher's vision, which I share, not so much country to country, but continent to country. So it really, as business persons in individual countries, the best strategy is going to be in contact with your local government to push for their AU representatives to make this a priority objective for the AU.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. We've got about 10 minutes left. I see Steve McDonough in the audience. I see Anthony Haynes. Would one or both of you like to say a few words about your projects? You've got some really exciting things going on in ag and beyond. Anthony or Stephen, are you available? And if you're speaking, we can't hear you, but feel free.
Now can you hear me?
And now we can hear you. Always great to see you, Anthony. Anthony's based in Southern Illinois, and he's getting tractors and other farm equipment to Africa, and really appreciate all of the work that you do. He's also part of our advisory board for Global Chamber Chicago. Anthony, you're not located in Southern Illinois. That was wrong. You're in Chicago, but he's often in Southern Illinois picking up equipment that he can export. Anthony, please go ahead. What's going on that we should know about?
Hi, Doug. Well, all is well. My office is actually in Forest Park, and I live in Chicago, but we actually export agricultural equipment and products overseas, and I've been focusing lately on Africa, really for quite a while. And also, I work with another company that's larger than mine that specializes in agricultural crop development, and also deal with development of livestock such as cattle and pigs, sheep, hogs, chickens. Even had an order from from Africa for ostrich. And we help them with developing and open up the market to utilize those various equipments and livestock for that part of the world. And if you want more information, you're more than welcome to contact me. Is my email ahaynes.associates@att.net, or you can call me at 773-905-2355. And look forward to talking to you more to have dialogue about working with Africa. And glad to see you, Ruby.
Hi, Anthony.
Always a pleasure, Anthony. And if you're having trouble connecting with Anthony, feel free to send an info at Ruby. I missed the opportunity earlier. I meant to do that. You're looking particularly stunning today. Is there anything we should know about the outfit that you have on? It's quite amazing.
I'm just being an African today and always. So just to give a bit of color to the occasion.
Very, very blue, very amazing. Thank you very much. We've only got
African women always look stunning when they sport their national attire. Well done.
Absolutely. And I think you've got several of your members here, including Gifty and others in the room. So thank you all for joining. In the last 5 minutes, I'd like to open it up, first of all, to Cesar. Cesar, have I missed anybody, or are you getting any messages, or do I have a message perhaps that I missed of anybody that would like to speak?
Thanks, Doug.
I would just like that.
Yeah, go ahead, Christopher.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think that this is also an excellent platform for our young interns or volunteers who want to be able to focus on, where and what they can do to help move this dialogue with Africa. And I think that the more young people that we can actually, request to be a part of like this session and other sessions will actually grow the competency. One thing that I found, even with that issue of the E1, E2, and thank you so much, Mel, for reinforcing what was said, that I found that, and I've been in several chambers of commerce, I've been in business for a lifetime, but the areas of international business or international trade is not the playground or the learning ground for young African Americans. In business, we are a minority in the business sector called international. And so I think that this is also a great opportunity to create an education pipeline, exposure, and build competency in Africa from a business perspective that the young people just don't receive through education or even internships or jobs. And if we're going to increase the opportunities for the continent and for those in America and in the Caribbean, then we must also focus on international trade literacy because it's so important. We can't have a global classroom and know that the classrooms within the respective markets are deficient with teaching the access of international trade. So that's all I want to say.
That's awesome. Thank you, Christopher. So, Cesar, was there anything else that you wanted to add?
I just wanted to remind everyone, Doug, to put their contact details in the chat, and so we can have everyone connecting on LinkedIn and following up on the discussion. But I will open the last 3-4 minutes for anyone who would like to say anything about Africa or introduce themselves.
Jeff Smith, I see you, my former neighbor in Westchester County, New York. The Factum Global does amazing work all around the world. I think that includes Africa, correct? You guys do activity there?
Thanks, Doug. Yeah, Factum Global. So we work with our clients to help them develop their global expansion strategy and connect them with the world. And we're a small team, but we have an extensive network of partners that we're constantly growing to help our clients be successful in new markets. We're joined here by our summer intern, Luke Hoeing. So he's joining as well. The comment about interns, I take to heart, to learn on the job and learn about new disciplines is super important. So my contact information is in the chat. Would love to connect with many of you. I've already connected with some during this call, which is the beauty of these Globinars. And Doug, it's about 100 degrees here in your former neighborhood.
Which is one thing in Phoenix. We have that all the time, but in
Right.
Westchester County, that's not a good thing. Wow.
Not quite.
If I may, I just want to agree with Jeff and Christopher on us focusing on the young ones as well. I want to say that I do have my interns joining as well. I have passion to give back to the young ones. And for me, Global Chamber provides that platform where we have a level even for students, because we want to catch them young and prepare them for the job market. So I do definitely agree with the two gentlemen. Thank you.
It's a key part of Global Chamber is women in global leadership and young global leaders. We should work together, young and old, experienced and inexperienced. There's a lot to learn from each other. We're just wrapping up now in the next minute or two. And so I'm wondering, let's go back to our first speaker, Comey Clue. Comey, what have you absorbed from today's conversation? And are there any closing comments that you would like to make?
Yeah, I have 2 points that I would like to make in closing comment. Number one is we need to reemphasize the urgency for food security in Africa, and we are in a global food crisis, which is not supposed to be a food crisis because Africa has many alternatives to wheat. I have mentioned in a previous call that cassava could be used, cassava flour could be used as an alternative to wheat. And Ruby put a comment in the system about that. And the second point I want to make also is, how do we, members of the global tribe, take this beyond just a discussion, just a nice meeting? We talk about it. How are we going to put some action plan together so that we can start moving the ball? These are great comments that everybody made, that we need to start moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Amen, brother. Really appreciate that. Derek, is there anything else that you would like to add to that?
No, actually, I agree with everything that everyone has said. Maybe I'll just mention that I also have my intern on the call, so maybe she can raise her hand virtually, Yaralyn. So there you go, getting the youth involved. But thank you for this opportunity.
Thanks, everybody, for joining. We're going to end the call right now because we have our monthly Global Book Author Series session starting right now with authors from all over the world talking about tips and techniques, their inspirations, and getting their message out to inspire more people. This has been incredibly inspiring as well. I totally agree with Comey, your comments about the first step is have a conversation, sort of like what Christopher did with Juneteenth. The next step is let's get some tangible plans and actions and connections and actually get some things done. Part of that is just by connecting, right? We learn about each other, we come up with ideas together, and we're better together. Let's keep moving those forward, just like Christopher has done with Juneteenth, where he's building business across the diaspora. And whatever the issue is, whether it's food security or whether it's technology opportunities like we talked about yesterday with the young global leaders, these are all fantastic ways to not just build prosperity, but build understanding in Africa and around the world. Global is good. Opportunities in Africa do exist, and let's provide help for each other to capitalize on those opportunities. Thank you again for everybody for joining. Hope to see you in a few minutes in the book author